Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I cannot believe we are already at our fourth webinar series. I think when we first started talking about doing this, it was only going to be three, and I think now we've gotten up to maybe six that we're going to do in this series. So I just want to welcome everyone back. I'm so excited about our part four of digital equity in times of crisis, hosted by our ISTE Digital Equity PLN. So tonight, our focus is going to be on practice and what we're going to do in order to move forward with our students, specifically talking about collaboration and engagement. I want to remind you that as you are going through our webinar tonight, feel free to tweet out and share your ideas. If you're watching this live, make sure you are active in our chat. Make sure you pull down the drop down to make sure you are sending it to all attendees and not just the panelists. We are recording this session, so feel free to come back and listen again. We also want to remind you that we have a slow chat going on. So if you use the hashtag ISTDEPLN or follow us on Twitter at DigEquityPLN, we will be happy to continue the conversation with you, and we're so happy to have you join us tonight. I am one of your moderators again. I'm Patricia Brown. Also joining me tonight in moderating is Dr. Nicole Howard.
Hi, everyone. I always forget I'm muted. Good to see you all here tonight joining us again. I am Nicole Howard from the University of Redlands. Today on our panel, we have Dr. Desiree Alexander, Adrian Kennedy, Dr. Sarah Thomas, and Shayna Glass. We're really excited to talk with them about collaboration and engagement. Also in our chat tonight, you will see our ISTE PLN leaders helping us with moderating. I'm going to call her out, although she doesn't know I'm going to do this. We have Carla Jefferson, I see already active in the chat. If you have questions, I'm sure she'll be able to respond probably quicker than some of us, so definitely watch for her responses in the chat. As each of our panelists respond to the questions, we definitely would love to hear more about their context, where they are, their institutions, their organizations, just so the people that are viewing have a chance to know where they're from. I am getting ready to dive in with our first question. And this first question is one that Patricia often reminds me to never forget, and that is a check-in question. So we first want to ask all of you how you're doing.
I'll start. I can say it's been a rough week. Last week and the weekend wasn't that much better. I'm exhausted, but I'm pressing ahead.
I'll go next. I'm definitely feeling blessed that my family's healthy, but as Adrian just stated, it has been an emotional roller coaster. In our home, just needing to continuously breathe, remind myself to breathe. So adjustment has been needed daily, and today most definitely.
Okay, well, I'll hop in. I think roller coaster, Shane, is the best way to describe it. It's feeling very, very blessed that everyone I know in person are safe, but it just the anger comes at times you don't expect it. The tears come at times you don't expect it. The joy comes at other times. So it really is a roller coaster time right now.
Yeah, I would definitely second, third, and fourth what everyone has said on panel. You know, personally, I'm at a pretty joyous time in my life, but thinking about everything that's kind of, you know, going on in the world, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of just exhaustion. You know, there's a lot that we carry on our shoulders. And I know that I've had to personally step away. And right now I'm starting to reevaluate how different things fit into my life. But I'm hopeful that at some point there'll be some kind of balance. I don't even know. I heard balance is a myth, so I don't even know.
It's reimagining what that balance looks like, right? Patricia, how are you doing?
I'll echo what everyone else has said. It has definitely been, like Desiree mentioned, a roller coaster from day to day, minute to minute. Sometimes I have to just turn off the news, turn off social media, and give myself just a mental break. And then at the same time, then you feel a little bit of guilt because you're like, well, I need to still be in touch with what's going on. And so it's like you're trying to figure out what is too much. And so still just trying to figure that part out. But I am grateful that my family is near and close, and we're still able to make those connections. So yeah. Dr. Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm feeling the same. I feel some days like it's racial battle fatigue. Some days I feel like I'm learning how to reconceptualize love in the midst of all of this. It's like it is a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster. Today was a good day. It was a better day, and I'm just going to speak that out for tomorrow too, and try to do like what all of you said. Shut down social media if I have to, and turn the news off when needed. Definitely. Thanks for asking. Before I dive into our next question, I want to also mention that we have Matt Highfield, another one of our leaders, digital SDDE PLN leaders, helping to moderate the chat. Just want to give him a shout out. So if you see notes from him too, they're probably directing you to some of our resources and reminding you about the slow chat and the ongoing conversation on Twitter. So the conversation for us today, as we mentioned, is all about collaboration and engagement. So this first question is, when looking at engagement for students, we know we have to consider cultural relevancy, and we really need to think about connecting student learning to our present lives. Between COVID and protests, how are we to engage our students in this critical, highly important conversation while also maintaining our classrooms as a safe space, or a brave space, as some people say? Anyone want to jump in and tackle that first question?
I'll hop in if that's okay. One of the things, first of all, from everything that we're saying, the first thing I thought of is we're feeling this way and we're adults, right? Just imagine what our kiddos are going through, no matter what age they are. And they may not have the people around them to actually process, right? So when they get back to our campuses, whether that be virtually or in person, we're going to have to give them time to process. We're going to have to kind of walk them through that journey. And I think one of the things that I've noticed, even on like social media between adults, is that, and between educators especially, is that we don't know how to discuss. We only know how to debate. So teaching our students the difference between a discussion and a debate, and coming up with not rules per se, but rules of a discussion in this class. What does it look like? Because they see debate all the time. Debate. Someone says something, I'm just waiting to say my. They see it constantly, and we're going to have to teach them differently. That's the only way we're going to be able to have these discussions and also create that safe space, which is not an easy thing to do.
I want to jump in on that, and I'll introduce myself too in the same breath. So I'm Shayna Glass, and currently I am the coordinator for computer science and STEM for Aldine Independent School District in Houston, Texas. Recently became the program manager for Rice University for code.org, and I am also the president for Computer Science Teachers Association Greater Houston. Mouthful. Now, going from what Desiree said, I feel like we have to go, my mom used to always say this, you have to go through the 7 steps of grief. Am I right? Is that what that is? I feel like we have to allow for our students to go through that because they may be angry. They may be sad. They may be in denial, and we're talking about our children of color. Sometimes those things, some educators may take it as they're acting out. They're, you can put biases on it, which we're trying to correct, the making sure that it's more culturally relevant. Understanding that all children are going through this right now, we need to give time for them to go through those levels of grief, because we don't know what's going on behind the doors in their homes. And the teacher was, in some sense, their parents for many of them. So allowing that time to process those feelings will go along with what Dr. Alexander said.
Yeah, for sure. Hello everyone. Sarah Thomas here. I'm a regional technology coordinator in a large school district by day. I also affiliate faculty at a local university, and I'm the founder of an organization called EduMatch. So I've been out. Oh, thank you so much for the snaps and the claps. I've been the last time I was in a classroom full-time, K-12, was the 2015-2016 school year. And I actually was there just for the first quarter, but the last full year prior to that was the 2014-2015 school year. And I remember having conversations on Voxer with Patricia, because she was living it, with Ferguson. And I remember many of you, being connected with. And one of our friends, Rafronz Davis, I remember particularly speaking with her about, the school year was starting up right after Michael Brown got killed. And at that point, I remember having a conversation with her about okay, what's the best way to discuss this with students? And she gave me some really great words of advice to let them process. Let them have that space to explore what they feel. And that whole school year was one that was charged with emotion. And one of the things that we did was we blogged. We sometimes we had posts, we had topics, sometimes it was just free writing, and just the things that the students shared, just their words, their voices. It was amazing, and it was amazing for me as an educator to watch, and hopefully it was cathartic to them to be able to get their thoughts and their feelings out. I remember at one point we collaborated on a blog post, and that was really powerful to experience, and I hope that lesson maybe is something that they look back on as well.
Thank you for that. Adrian, did you have any other thoughts you might want to add to that? Yeah.
Sure, I can jump in. I'm Adrian Kennedy, and I work for an agency that comes alongside educators. We provide coaching, training, technical assistance on implementing trauma-informed practices to teachers and administrators. And so what I would add to this is one of the things that we talk to educators a lot about is creating these optimal learning environments, right? And so one of the key elements of doing that is relevance. And one of the things that we ask teachers to look for is the developmental stage and the state of arousal that a child is in, and making sure that your lessons, your interventions, your interactions with students are developmentally matched to where the student is and matched to where they are at in their state of arousal, because we know that kids can be one age, but developmentally they can be much younger. And post-COVID, we've all experienced this collective trauma, and so that can cause us to be in a state of stress, and our behaviors can be much younger than our chronological age. And so that's one thing that I would say as you go about having these conversations and lessons with students, just making sure that you are matching where they're at developmentally and where their stress response is.
It's very important. Thank you so much for that reminder. Patricia, any thoughts before we move on to our next question?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone was saying. Someone posted in the chat about the social emotional needs, and I think we all kind of hit that, and how important it is to not only support our students, but our families in general. And I know a lot of districts are doing a really good job of that now, like providing food and providing, immediate resources. But I think what is going to be the real challenge is what happens post COVID. Like, what's going to happen when kids come back to school, when the families are back in, the school environment? How are we going to continue to provide that support? And I just think that's important. And we always got to keep that in mind. Not only our students, though, our staff, our teachers, because we are definitely dealing with that. And it's something that's affecting all of us. So definitely we can talk about our social emotional needs being met is key. So, yeah. All right, so let's move on to our next question. So I'm going to ask the panel, what are some things that schools and districts can do to ensure that they are supporting connections with parents during this remote learning? And we can also add the layer of remote learning, COVID, racial tension, all of these things that are happening right now. And we can continue to go down the list. So we don't want to just talk about like the original reason that we're out of school, which was COVID, but let's just talk about all of this. Like, what are some things that our schools are doing? What are some things that you're doing? What strategies do you have that you are helping support your schools and your students and families? Whoever wants to jump in.
I'll go first. Some things that our school district started to initiate is parent workshops. They started this, I'm not gonna say pre-COVID, but during the time period where school was happening, between March and May, they started this series where they invited parents in to learn about what the students will be going through, also to do some things with social emotional learning, ways that they could help the students at home. It was on a small scale, and knowing, we all, this is unexpected. We thought this was somewhat temporary. I heard you just say, after COVID. I don't know if when there will be an after COVID. So now the adjustment is, the reality is we're looking at this as a shift in education as a whole, not just, until we get a vaccine or there's antibodies, but this may be the new shift, as we hope it will be the new shift in education. So how you as a parent can prepare to support your student. You too must be educated to be able to educate them. That doesn't mean you need to know algebra and physics, but that does mean you need to know where to get those resources to support your student and your children. So those workshops are valid. We're looking at expanding that. We're calling it a variety of onboarding. So student, parent, teacher, admin, I know y'all hear what I'm saying. But we have to have those to build those supports, because we've never done that before. And our parents can't just be on the sideline as a cheerleader. You have to get in the deep end. We have the floaty. Here, put it on, because you have to get in here with them and walk this journey as far as it's going to take them. So,
if never before, definitely now.
Welcome.
Yes, exactly. Desiree, did you want to jump in?
I do, and I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself last time, but I'm Desiree Alexander. I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I work for an educational nonprofit called APEL in Louisiana. So, but yeah, just when Shayna said, this is going to be a switch in education, I've been preaching this for so long, and I've been waiting for it. I didn't know what it would take for education to switch, but this is the longest that education has been stagnant. Like I'm like, when is it gonna, like, where is it gonna be during my lifetime? Like, when is it going to switch? I mean, we went from, one room schoolhouses to separating the sexes, to separating the races. It's always been these big changes in education, and this is the longest we've just been stuck. I thought school round school was gonna come and change it, but it didn't really, and I've been waiting. So I think this is the time. I think we're in a historical time right now where education is finally getting a boost of something to make it different, because it's not working. It's not working in its current state. So when she said that, I was like, yes. But going back to the question with parents, making sure I just have to amen. Like, I'm like, yes, I've been waiting on this change. But because of the change and because of what we're going through, we have to think differently. And it's one of those things where I would tell my teachers, whether you like it or not, if you're still sitting there going, well, that's not my job to teach parents, and that you're in the wrong profession. Like, if you're still waiting on this big influx of parental involvement, you're in the wrong profession. Like, you need to understand that it's going to take us to reach out to our parents and say, hey, we can help you too. We can help you help them. And we're all on the same side, on the side of your child and on the side of your student. So I think what she said, some of those things, like having parent university and all these things that, we call it, and teaching our parents, because we can't assume that our parents know what's going on. You're saying, well, all you have to do is click on the phalange and then go to the blue wire and cut that and make it white, and it makes sense to us, but people don't know what we're talking about. And we can't just keep going, well, you should know. Why should I know if that's not part of my job, right? I mean, a plumber may come to me and be like, well, you should know. No, I don't know. I don't know anything that you're saying, so please fix it. So it's the same thing with education. We have to start training our parents to be on the side of our students. It's not that they don't want to, it's that it's very intimidating. Many of our parents have had bad interactions with education, and they don't want to go back there. Why would I want to go somewhere that makes me think I'm stupid and makes me think that I'm obsolete? So we have to kind of take off our backpack. We have to take off our egos, and we're going to have to teach our parents just like we're teaching our students, so we can all be on the same side. Playtime is over.
Definitely. You brought up some very good points, specifically about just those expectations of parents. And I've heard that so many times, where a teacher is just waiting for the parent to just do this overhaul change. And it's like, you don't know what everybody's situation is, and you don't know what their educational experience is. A lot of times they're coming in with their baggage from 12 years ago when they went to school. So you have to keep that in mind. I don't want to put you on the spot, Desiree, but I am. It was a question in the chat. They wanted to know, how can we trust the school systems to make that change? What kind of institutional shifts will have to happen in order for that to happen? Anybody can answer that if they have, but it specifically was geared towards you, Desiree, because you brought up the shift. And I know you already have an answer, so go ahead.
Our leaders have to step up.
Yeah.
Our leaders have to step up. I mean, point blank, period. Like, even when I'm talking to my teachers and I'm telling them, like, I'll preface it by saying, you can bring it up, but you can't always make the change, because we have this hierarchy in education, right? I mean, let's just be real with it. So, but, I said, like, if you're comfortable, bring it up to your admin, like, hey, can we do a parent university? Can we, get our parents more involved? But leaders are going to have to step up. And I was an educational leader. I trained my educational leaders, but we're going to have to step up. We're going to have to step up and honestly make some change and have those conversations with our leadership, who are above us, who are sometimes not even educators. So we're going to have to be like, look, either we change or we fail. It's really that simple. It's a simple equation. It's not easy to do, but it's a simple equation.
It's not just that if we don't change, we fail. If we don't change, our students fail. So
And
you
we
know.
can't recall them. I say that all the time. We can't recall a generation of students. We can't say, oh, we sucked from 2018 to 2019. Go ahead and call them back. Like, let's recall and do it again. We can't recall students.
No,
Okay,
and
so we
some
gotta
people
be
wanted to
on
do
it.
that. They wanted to do that during COVID. They were like, I think that when we come back in August, the kids need to go back to the grade level they were. No, it's not gonna happen. You should have did what you was gonna do back in September before this all happened. I don't know, Adrian, Sarah, you all, either one want to jump in with any ideas on this topic, question?
Yeah, I can just say kind of some of the things that I have seen being a partner that schools have been doing that I thought were really good. One thing was just a survey of the parents to find out what their needs are, so you can figure out how you can meet those needs. I've seen a lot of newsletters and websites and things like that, but I really thought that it was really good. We had some students in a school that were, most of them were refugees and most of them were Muslim. And so at the end of May, I believe they were doing Ramadan. And so the teachers adjusted the schedule so that the kids could have the time during the day to do their prayers and all of the whatever requirements they had to do, and they could go to school later in the day. So I think it takes a lot of flexibility and creativity as well on the part of the schools to meet those needs for students.
That's good. I've never heard that before, but that's definitely culturally relevant teaching and making adjustments for the students that you have. So I love that. That's great. Sarah, anything?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say once again, you know, y'all nailed it. I love the piece about listening to our stakeholders, like not just asking for their opinion, but listening, implementing it, maybe putting them on panels, you know, putting them on action committees, things of that nature. I would say that one of the things that when we all started with this remote learning, you know, due to the COVID, then I noticed that a lot of things were brought to light that may not have been as exposed before. And, you know, I feel like we're seeing that worldwide. I would say in my district, one of the things that we really saw was the need to have parental resources in as many languages as possible and get them out there, right? Because our district, we have like everybody and their mama in my district. So I mean, you know, it's great to have native language support, especially when you're dealing with things like ed tech tools, you know, where students are learning. And like, you know, for example, my family is from Haiti, but if you were to hand me something in Creole, like that was highly technical, I would not be able to understand it, right? Even though I might be able to listen, hear it, you know, understand it orally, written, no. So having that native language support was a huge thing. But in addition to that, everything else that you all said about listening to our stakeholders, listening to our parents, partnering with them, and, you know, just coming together to do that.
I think that that's definitely key, just being able to have those different supports in, whether it be language, whether it be helping make that shift, whether it be that parental support, because I think we're definitely going to see change, and hopefully it's going to be positive change. I think we are really in a unique opportunity, something that nobody has ever experienced before, even beyond our lifetime. Like, this has not happened. So I really think that we're going to see some positive change, and all of the, and I say this in every single one of the webinars, that nobody's talking about tests, nobody's talking about SAT scores, ACT scores, end of term, quarterly tests, and we are still okay. And I think that is something that needed to happen, because it gives us a unique opportunity to change the way that we are providing and educating our students. So I'm excited about this shift.
So, I'm going to move us to our next question, but I'm going to add to what Patricia said and just say I'm also excited about this shift, because not only are we not asking about the testing for our K-12 students here in California, our teacher educators, because of COVID, their testing centers for exams are closed too. And so our credentialing body is reimagining how to move our innovative future teachers into classrooms to support our students. And so we've been teaching them in our preparation programs about building relationships first before driving the tech or driving to testing. And they're ready. Many of them are ready. And I think education, this space will look very different. And I want to go back to the comment made about trust, building the trust, because one thing our parents also want to see is action. So that's key. So when they give their voice, I know some local districts here, Redlands Unified, for example, they're not only polling parents and asking them and sharing with them things they're thinking about doing, they're asking for parent insight, and then they're following up with parents to show them how they've actioned what they've requested. And that's helping to build the trust. And I think that that's key. And it also addresses equity, which we know we're about. You know, we're including all stakeholders, all voices, and they're not just doing it at, oh, come during the day to this meeting where you usually would have to work, right? They're thinking about how to collect that information in more innovative ways. So I'm going to slightly pivot because our next question was going to take us back to culturally relevant teaching and just thinking about other teachers and thinking about our own practices and preparing to address cultural relevance in the classroom. But I want to add a layer to that question and ask, how do you all foresee how we will ensure accountability as we move into the next academic year? Because some of these changes won't be written in policy, but these are things that we know from our own practice. So what are some recommendations you might make to those who are watching tonight, recommendations for how to support each other in addressing cultural relevant pedagogies, but how to also hold each other accountable? Did I throw you guys off a bit?
I'll just jump in. I think with the accountability piece, I think it's going to be done for us, because I think we are at a place in our society right now where we're not asking anymore. People are demanding and saying, this is what I want. This is what I am required to have. These are my rights. And I think we're going to have more of our students holding our teachers and our leaders accountable. I think our parents definitely are going to be stepping up a lot more. But I'm going to really, I really feel like our student voices are going to really shine more so than ever. I think they're going to start speaking up. I think they're going to start sharing. And because you think about it, right now, what we're seeing in the world with our protesting and things, a lot of times we're seeing the adults. But when the kids return to school, that stuff is going to be in them and it's going to bubble up and it's going to come out one way or another. And I think they're going to start speaking up and saying, I am not getting what I need to get out of this school, out of this classroom, out of this environment, and I want change. And so that is going to be interesting to see. I'm going to just predict that that is what's going to happen when it comes to accountability, that our students are going to be really strong in speaking up and sharing their voices.
Dr. Thomas, and then Adrian, I see you both are ready to jump in.
Go ahead, Dr. Thomas.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be brief. I hope that you're right, Patricia. I really do hope that our students' voices are elevated and can provide that accountability. But also, when you ask the question, Dr. Howard, my first thought was, yes, there needs to be accountability, but can we shift some of that accountability to our teacher education programs and thinking about the product that they are producing, the teachers that they're producing, because how can you be accountable if you don't really have the capacity to identify what some of the inequities are and counter them? So I see that as a real opportunity for us to build the capacity of teachers to be more equity oriented and to teach them how to counter inequities. And that accountability has to shift to our professional development and also to our teacher education programs.
Thank you. I think that is important in teacher education for our pre-service. And then I'm appreciative of the comment about professional development too, because we have our in-service teachers who aren't, I mean, Dr. Alexander said we can't recall some educators or some students, right? So I'm thinking we can't recall some educators who are in the classrooms already, but if we have the right professional development, we can support. Dr. Thomas, did you want to jump in there?
Oh yeah, I love everything that y'all have shared so far, and I definitely want to go back to something that Patricia was mentioning about how our students will be more likely to advocate for themselves. That's definitely a shift that that as educators we should help to water that seed among our students so that they're able to advocate for themselves. And in addition, I feel as though, and this might be really optimistic, we'll see, but it seems as though society is starting to change pretty rapidly. People are more open to having conversations that we were not having before. Well, I mean, some of us were having, but I would say that that now we're seeing that more and more people are willing to engage in a dialogue. So I feel like it's going to come around like a natural order of things. I'm hoping and knocking on wood that once we return, that people in general will be more likely to speak up, speak out, and just stand for what's right.
So I want to go back to what Patricia was asking, what you and Nicole were stating. Who's going to be, where will the accountability come from, right? So I agree that it will be the parents and the students, but what I see, and I think it's making our school districts nervous, this statement here. When a parent or a student doesn't like what they see happening, in a regular classroom, you came in the classroom, you sat down, you had to listen. You had, I'm here in class, I'm gonna be here for 45 minutes, she has the stage. But in this environment, the kids really do hold the teacher accountable. And if you were still trying to do what you did pre-COVID, then I don't have to be here. And what parents are also seeing is, oh, is this all you have to offer? My child finished that in 2 hours versus the whole semester. So my child don't have to be here. So the school districts, I can only speak locally, are very concerned about the money, because if they're not here and they decide to go, if we're already doing it virtual, why not go to a virtual school where it equals the playing field? Well, who's it equaling it for? Because it's taken away from the public schools in our school systems. So weirdly, we're talking about accountability, but then I'm asking a question: how do we handle or adjust for this level of accountability? Because if the teacher, we can't, like you said, we can't throw them back. We can't go back in time. If we can't, and the parents and the students are making those decisions, what do we do? How do we bring us forward so that we don't lose the kids? Because we very well may. And a lot of people are anticipating a large number of students not coming back.
Well, I'll just jump in. If we go back to the way school was before pre-COVID, we are going to lose our kids because they have been exposed to a whole nother world than what nobody could have predicted this. So I definitely think that can possibly happen. And I couldn't see how districts can be a little bit fearful about what's going to happen next. So I think it's very important that we dive in and listen, learn, research, figure out what we can do to make that difference for our students, because I agree, we are going to lose some kids. If we go back to, like you said, 45-minute sessions, sitting behind your desk, listening to a teacher lecture for even 90-minute blocks, because some of the kids are on block schedule, that's not going to work. So I'm happy about that, actually, but we have to definitely have a shift in what that looks like for all kids and not just for segments of.
A lot of them are saying, when we get back, I'll give you a device and you can sit and listen to this teacher.
Yeah,
that's not gonna work. That's not gonna
work. One thing that Bradford just mentioned in the chat is how the district calendars are now getting communities up in arms. And it's interesting, even bringing up the topic of bringing the community into the conversation. We need to do that. That is something that some schools do very well and some are not doing just yet. And the community needs to be a part of that conversation on what we do next year, because we need their support. We need the support of our community. We have to engage them in the conversation.
Yeah. And one of the things I would add to the professional development piece, because that's where my life is right now, and the piece the question that Shana just proposed, and I know we can't go back, and I know hindsight is 2020, but what I've been telling some of my districts, and I know I say stuff that not everybody is comfortable with, and I don't care because I'm not in the district anymore, so I really don't care, is you should have been nervous. Like, you should have been ashamed at the teaching that was going on. If you're ashamed now, you should have been feeling that way. Like, stop checking boxes on a little evaluation and turning it into the state. Like, you should have been saying something was wrong. Why are you doing it now? But stepping back, hindsight is 2020, even though people, I'm sure somebody told you that in your district, but okay, hindsight is 2020. You should be nervous, okay? But that nervousness should lead to action. That nervousness needs to lead to innovation. That it's not like, oh, I'm nervous because we're looking for money, and like cut out stop playing games, okay? Because you're playing games with our future. They're gonna be the little ones counting out my medicine. You're gonna be long gone, 80-year-old superintendent, okay? They're gonna be counting out my medicine and killing me on my deathbed, okay? So no, like, just cut out the game. So if you're nervous, use that nervousness and create change from it. And that's what we're going to have to do to keep children in public education. Public education is going to have to offer something different and not be afraid of that. So if you're saying, well, they're going to leave public education and go to online schools, why aren't public education districts offering online schools? Like, is that like, I don't understand the disconnect, because I've seen districts do it. So where's the disconnect in that? Why? I always say that educators and education has this false sense of control. We think we're controlling the students because they're here and they're going to the classes and they're sitting in front of us. And it's a false sense, because if we had control, it would be working, and it's not working because we have that false sense of control. So we need to give up that control and start offering other programs for our students, like online programs. And then you won't lose your students. Your students will still be enrolled. They'll still have a school code. You'll still get the money for the students to offer them programs. Like, just change. Like, stop being so stuck in the mud and change. And I'm gonna be quiet, but with professional development, it's really on us. Like, even though like my money comes from professional development and things like that, it's really on us to start offering districts a little bit deeper PD. Okay, it's on us to say, yeah, I know you want that Google Sheets, and I'm gonna give you that Google Sheets, and it's gonna be awesome. But do you also want to do some digital equity work? Like, do you also want to do like a session just about checking your own bias as an educator? Do you want, like, we need to stop being afraid to offer those kind of services, and hopefully districts will stop being afraid to offer it to their teachers.
Yep, those honest conversations are critical. And Desiree, you're taking us perfectly into the last question that's coming from Patricia.
Yeah, and I was just going to even add that extra layer, and you kind of brought it in there, Desiree, of just talking about, I had a conversation today with a person who was in leadership for a district, and he was a bit like frustrated because he was trying to figure out like what is the next action, like put out a statement, and the statement came across from a lot of parents as kind of weak as it relates to a statement regarding what was currently happening in, you know, the world, racial tension, racism, all that kind of stuff. And so it kind of took defense, you know, kind of got defensive about the fact that he was caught out because the parents thought it was kind of weak. And so I'm wondering, in addition to those supports and things that we have in place, what do you, and this is not even one of the questions, but it's just kind of pivoting, you know, how I do. What do you all think is the strategy or the action that needs to happen as school districts? Now, they're fearful, and there needs to be a shift and change in what the educational system looks like when the kids are sitting in front of them. We've talked about that. Now, what else needs to happen as it relates to how they deal with racism, specifically being anti-racist in their districts? Like what, and I don't know how to actually phrase this question because I'm kind of talking through it, but just wondering your thoughts on, you know, how a superintendent or how a principal, how a teacher, what kind of things do you think that they need to start even thinking about right now? I know Desiree, you talked about looking at your biases. We know that's like critical. I would think listening, learning, but what other things do you all have? Because I think that's another area that the districts are going to be fearful of, about, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to say nothing. Maybe I shouldn't say anything because if I say something, then it's too much. But then if I do say something, then is that the right thing to say? Is it the right thing to do? Desiree, I know you want to jump in. I see Shane, I want to jump in. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say two quick things and be quiet. One is look at who's on your leadership team. Look at who's making the decisions. So first and foremost, like and this is what I tell, you know, my white counterparts, I will never, ever, ever be able to answer a question from a white female's perspective because I'm not a white female. I will same thing with white men, same thing with other, whatever. So who's on your leadership teams? Who's making the decision? So first and foremost, look around and see what viewpoints are you getting from the people around you? And even if the people around you are diverse, are they butt kissers? Like, are you getting yes, 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 yes every time you say something? Then you know I need somebody that's going to challenge me. You know, but you have to be a strong leader for that, though. You have to have a backbone to be a strong leader to say I need someone to challenge me on, you know, that's on my level that can do that. So that's the first thing that I would say. And I'll stop right there. So see who's on your. Well, I'm gonna say the second thing. Unlearn. We have to unlearn stuff too. Okay, because we've learned a lot of just bad stuff in our lifetimes, and we have to actively unlearn those things.
Definitely.
Desiree, on point. Okay, so Dr. Alexander, thank you. I'm going to say this. So I'm definitely feel blessed to be in the district I am. Sometimes it's difficult, it's a challenge, but my current leader, Dr. Latanya Goffney, she speaks her truth. Okay, so what you said is definitely key, and you know she shook some things up last week where she actually sent out an email to not only the staff, the district teachers and leaders, but she also sent it out to all parents, and she spoke her truth as being a Black woman, a mother, a wife, you know, someone's daughter. She spoke her truth, and she said, you know, we're going to trip, we may fall, we may not completely be successful, but we have to step in it, whatever it's going to look like. That, I mean, everybody was, it was astonishing because you wouldn't, it was almost like reading a letter from one of you, like maybe if I would have sent you a letter. It was personal, it was grounded, and it was important, because without that, how else will we feel comfortable sharing our own truth? Now, I can't speak for myself because, you know, I'm learning to identify and use my voice, not just for myself, but for those that I support, for my own child, for my family, representing my mother. You know, I am grounding myself. So I can't speak for all other teachers and educators, but her doing that as a model, as a leader, to do that is important. And it's really important for, if you are a leader in this room, or if you could speak to the leader in your district, it's important that you try to take those steps, because if you don't, know that your parents are looking and watching. Campus leaders are looking and watching, and if they feel that they can't, especially now, especially in these last 2 to 3 weeks, people gonna move around. And that's not that they're not strong. You need them, because that is the face and the voice for what's happening in that community, in that school community. So I completely agree with you, Dr. Alexander. It's really important that leaders identify their own voice, look at what leaders surround them, and amplify, because that's what it's all rooted in.
Adrienne?
What I would add, just based on my experience with principals and superintendents and other administrators, is to take a look at your data and take an honest look at it without any kind of personal attachment to what the data looks like, because opportunity gaps happen in a lot of different areas. So look and see how your Black students are being treated with disciplinary action. You know, is there some disproportionality there? There probably is. Look at your achievement. How are your Black students achieving compared to your white students? Look at graduation rates. Is there some disproportionate rates in Black students graduating and their white counterparts graduating? I think if you take an honest look without any personal attachment to the data and make a commitment that whatever you see, you're going to work to change that, that's a good place to start. And we talked about accountability earlier. I think this is an area where parents can hold administrators and principals accountable for these outcomes. Parents need to know, what some of this data is and what it looks like, and expect their leadership in the school to change that.
I'm so glad you brought up the data topic, or brought up data, because a lot of times if you look at the data, the same data has not changed for the last 10 to 15 years. You'll see the same trends, and nobody is asking the questions, why? Like, why is this the same? What are we going to do? And I'm going to tell you right now, here and there, and I'm just going to say it. If it was white children that were performing lower than Black children or brown children, the world would be in an uproar, because they would not understand what is going on. And so I think that people have gotten so used to seeing the data look like this, it's become a norm. And we definitely have to, I agree with you, Adrienne, look at that data, look at it from a perspective, be able to have multiple eyes looking at it, different perspectives. That's what goes back to what Dr. Alexander was saying about the leadership and who's in the room. And if you have different perspectives, you'll be able to see different outlooks and maybe different solutions, because apparently the things that you're doing isn't working. Let's do something different. And I think we're at a point in our society and our schools that we can definitely do something different. I didn't ask that specific question that's on number 4, so let me try to throw that in real quick. So talking about partner agencies and PD, how can we, I don't know, do you all have any ideas specifically about how we can change and shift that virtual context? I know a lot of times when we're talking about virtual learning, some people are thinking that just means take the worksheet that I have, scan it in, and put it online so the kids can fill it out. Let's make a Google form. And there's not a lot of talk about the shift and what our students are being able to do virtually. We haven't even tapped into the digital equity piece of even having those devices and also having the resources and internet. We've talked about that in our other webinars, but I don't know, real quick, what are some strategies? I know I'm gonna ask Sarah if she has anything that she want to throw out. I know she has so many different ideas. Or no? Okay, I won't ask Sarah, but I didn't know if you had any specific strategies as it relates to, because you do a lot of PD for your staff and your teachers, and I know Dr. Alexandra as well.
Right.
But I didn't know if you all had something that you could jump in and throw out that could be critical for how we can make a shift.
I think Desiree said it perfectly earlier, that it needs to change. You know, it can't just be, oh, this is how you do X, Y, and Z. You have to dig deeper, you know, like, I mean, there is space for X, Y, and Z. I'm not saying totally get rid of it, but you definitely have to go deeper than that. And I feel like, just to kind of answer the last question, just very quickly, I just wanted to say that I agree with what everyone said in terms of representation, looking at data. And in addition to that, I would also say listening, which is something that we have talked quite a bit about. Actually listening, not just paying lip service, not just, you know, this person, you know, like let's throw something out there and see what people say, but actually taking that information and doing something with it. And if you don't know what to do with it, then ask whoever you got it from, right? Like, ask them, what would you expect to see done about this? You know, because just asking a question and leaving it there is almost worse than doing nothing at all. So so definitely acting upon that.
And just to pull back from the data question, there was a comment in the chat that said we have to stop making the children the deficit in our failure to educate them. That was Leah Crawford that said it in the chat. That's absolutely true. A lot of times we're looking at our kids and thinking we have to fix our children when we know the system is what needs to be fixed, overhauled, if you ask me. But definitely. All right. Want to throw it over to Dr. Howard?
I just saw another thing that popped up too in our chat, a question on how many Black students are encouraged to take AP and computer science classes. Who are their advocates? And I would even push that a little bit further and say, are we offering the same AP and CS course opportunities at all campuses in a school district? Or are we selective about where those courses are offered, meaning students who don't live in certain boundaries may not have access to those campuses? So I think we have an opportunity here with online learning to think about how we can open up the doors of opportunity, close the gap, narrow the opportunity gap to create more learning opportunities and greater access for our students to AP and higher level courses too. Because talk about data, there's research that tells us that students who have access to those courses are more likely to persist in college, whether or not they score a 4 on their AP exam or not. Just having access to those higher level courses is critical. It also opens doors for career selection opportunities too. So there's so much to be considered as we reimagine education. And I think we're ready to wrap up. We've hit our time. So I'm gonna pass the ball back to Patricia here as we wrap up for the evening and kind of talk about a couple of updates on what's to come. We are so thankful for our panelists. Thankful to you all for joining us tonight. Thank you, Dr. Desiree Alexander, Adrienne Kennedy, Dr. Sarah Thomas, and Shayna Glass. You all, we dropped earlier links to their websites where you can learn more about them. Please continue to look them up. Find them on Twitter. We'll share their Twitter handles with you all. Stay in touch with them. And thank you again for joining us this evening. Patricia, you want to sign us out?
Yeah, this was just another powerful webinar, some dynamic panelists. I really enjoyed this discussion. I didn't even feel like it was a panel. I felt like we were having a discussion and really tapping into some critical conversation that we need to have. And I think we need to continue this conversation. So again, go out to Twitter, contact our panelists on their websites and their contact information. Continue the conversation, lean in and get more understanding. Just listen. I think this is the critical time for listening. Like, listen, educate yourself, really tap into your own biases and your thoughts and when we talk about reimagining education, we can certainly do that. We can certainly dream big about what our educational system looks like. And we need to invite our families, invite our kids into that conversation as well. I think our panelists did a great job of providing all kind of ideas for us to have that collaboration and engagement with our families. So I just want to thank them again. And I want to thank all of our participants. Again, you can replay this session. It'll be posted on YouTube probably sometime tomorrow, Dr. Howard, right? And feel free to go back, listen again, tap back into the resources. We're going to also be sharing out the resources that we put in. I want to also let you know that on June 22nd, next Monday, we will have another webinar featuring Valerie Lewis, Ken Shelton, Leah Crawford, Michael Mills as our panelists. And we're going to talk about where do we go from here. Like we've kind of built up to some different conversations, and then we want to know, like, what is it going to look like in the future? What are some things that we can do at this point? And I think it's going to start from as we reimagine school, we're reimagining what our educational environment is going to look like. I think we can start talking about where do we go from here. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Hopefully you walked away with some great ideas and insight and some learning. And we appreciate you participating in the chat and keeping it going. And let's continue the conversation. Everyone have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.